Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where the topic is Top Trends for Enterprise Agile Transformation in 2020, People, Processes, and Technology for a Modern Agile PMO. My name is Doug Welsby, and I'm the Channel Manager here at Wicrosoft. I'm also joined by my colleague, Jose Levy, our Practice Director of Azure Cloud Services and Agile PPM. During today's webinar, attendees will be on mute and the line will not be open for questions. However, feel free to use the GoToWebinar question feature to submit questions. I will address these questions during the webinar and will respond via email if we do not get to your specific question. If for some reason you get distracted or pulled away from the webinar, no need to worry, as I'll be emailing a link to the presentation once it has been posted to our YouTube channel. With that, I'll now turn the presentation over to Jose.
Thank you, Doug. And thanks everyone for joining today on our first webinar of 2020 to go over some of the trends for enterprise agile transformation. There's a lot been going on in the market, and we have a lot to talk about in terms of what we're seeing with our customers and within the agile space. So our talking points today, we're going to cover some challenges and opportunities for Agile PMOs. We're going to look at business agility, a topic we've gone through before, but really that being the end goal for the organization overall, and how Enterprise Agile can actually contribute through a PMO. How do we transition to Enterprise Agile? We're going to go over our OnePlan solution in both an adaptive PPM and lean portfolio management mode, and then finish with some takeaways. So really, what's the pace of technology change and the three main drivers, that being new ways of work, the DevOps integration, and cloud technologies are accelerating change and really focusing organizations more on business outcomes for the customers. The demand from business for business outcomes, greater business outcomes at a faster pace, is really forcing organizations to rethink how they're structured and how everybody works. So you have an option of moving and accepting the rate of change and striving and stretching towards the potential, or struggling because in the end your customers and the rest of your stakeholders are going to demand that you move quicker. So really it's a constant goal for the organization to drive towards this business agility, so that you can meet the demand from your customers for change through digital initiatives. So I want to start just by some hype cycles, the Gartner hype cycles. We are strongly aligned to the Gartner hype cycles, and you can see here that want to point out on the infrastructure and operations, which is really what drives cloud and DevOps, we can see that organizations are being influenced by concepts of continuous delivery. This is the DevOps influence, DevOps tool chains, and within that there is value stream management, which is really a way, another way of managing software development products by really defining development value streams for all of the applications that make up a solution. You can see DevOps also even within the slope of enlightenment, and that's because a lot of organizations haven't yet fully adopted or perfected their DevOps practices. And obviously cloud, within the same hype cycle, we can see a lot of cloud data backup, cloud migration, cloud management platforms. So the growth of cloud technologies, public clouds, and now the new trick coming with hybrid cloud computing, which is also listed here, is heavily impacting how organizations, need to really become software companies in through their digital initiatives in offering more to the customers. On the other side, on the lower quadrant, I have the hype cycle for enterprise architecture, which is interesting because this deals with how IT manages itself from a strategy standpoint. And you can see here that we have Business Agile Strategy Realization Office, which is another word for Strategic Project Office, becoming more important in the hype cycle. Agile Architecture, also within the hype cycle. Digital business transformation, which it's probably the most overused word in IT, digital transformation. Business architecture, which is where it's the source of the concept of value streams, both at an operational level and development level, and capabilities which are supported by IT systems and applications. And we can see also digital optimization. So all of these are really driving the performance improvement of IT capabilities in IT organizations, and trying to meet the challenge for change through all these new technologies. And at the same time, this is affecting portfolio management overall, whether you were talking about IT portfolio management or enterprise project management office. These are leadership teams, IT leadership teams, or leadership teams overall are being influenced by all of these trends also, which means that they're aspirational in a lot of cases for organizations to adopt. In the end, the organization needs to really have a position of driving business agility as the end state, and really it's improving capabilities in order to compete and thrive in the digital age through digital initiatives, being able to respond to market changes, and also come up with these innovative business solutions through digital that can meet your customer needs. So we've used this before, and it's really a way to position where your organization is currently and where you need to be. And it's important because, as we'll see in the end in terms of the prediction, what's happening is that an enterprise agile transformation really needs to be contextualized to your organization and the way that you're built, while at the same time, and this is really the difficult part, not falling into the anti-patterns of doing or saying that you're using new ways of work when you're just renaming traditional ways of work. There's evidence of that going on, and we'll touch on that in a second. But really, what we're trying to advocate is, you need to be moving more to the left. At the very least, you need to be adaptive. And it's been some years since the bimodal mode 1, mode 2 came out, in terms of having the ability in an organization to work both in predictive and adaptive manners. Now it's more of a reality. So what we believe is that it's a matter of time. It's not if you're going to become adaptive, is when you're going to become adaptive. And I think if we most surveys will show that most organizations are using Agile in some way. The percentage of delivery in Agile versus waterfall or hybrid changes depending on the organization and the industry. But at the end of the day, the position from an Agile PMO standpoint is that you need to be adaptive. The old traditional ways of working are not going to allow you to achieve the business agility. So at the very least, you will reach some adaptive stage of PPM, project portfolio management. And if you are very driven towards technology products in what you deliver to customers, you will be much more shifting to the left, where you will be in a lean portfolio management or Agile approach. So that is a transformation where the majority of your projects will be using Agile frameworks. So keep this in mind, and like I said, it's not a matter of if you're going to do it, it's when you're going to be in either of these two modes, adaptive or lean portfolio. So here I want to list a case study. We go to all of the industry conferences, so the evolution of EPMOs to strategic project, in this case, a strategic project office. It's interesting because here we're looking at an organization that actually, this is Preferred Mutual Insurance, that painted their history of how they've gone from just doing your, project administration, within a PMO to a full strategic project office. And it's taken time, which is another element that is important to take into account. Transformations don't happen overnight, and organization needs to evolve as well as you're doing your transformation. So in this case, you can see that they are now in a position where they have integrated Agile, Lean, and the organizational structure has changed to where the strategic project office is actually an officer, is a senior VP. So what were the goals, or what were they able to do? Were they actually integrating Agile and other delivery frameworks within the domain of the strategic project office? The second is, you can see here that they are very tied to strategy or their organization and performance management. So that's their focus. That's part of their mission. In this particular case, as part of the presentation, they stated that they have very strong CXO sponsorship. The CEO directly actually was an advocate for this approach and is a sponsor of this approach. And finally, the organizational structure had to be realigned. So, this is important because it places the position of, in this case, of a strategic project office very high within the organization. And if you're going in the direction of an adaptive, this is what we would call an adaptive PMO or adaptive PPM, where they're incorporating different methods of work together with the traditional waterfall approaches. Now, anti-patterns are real, and there's also a lot of evidence of organizations that have aspirations but don't actually take the necessary steps to make it a reality, and that has to do with the typical points of failure. At the end of the day, it is a change initiative within your organization, and it is a technical initiative as well as a technology and people initiative. So you do require, the standard critical success factors, which are great sponsorship top down. And in fact, in the methodology, the framework that we're going to talk about in a second, the first thing you do is you actually have to train executives in order for them to understand the level of change management, and having a change management plan of how you're going to go about integrating Agile within your organization needs to be well thought out. It's a total organizational buy-in, especially if you're moving through the full Agile spectrum that includes DevOps, which means that you have to take and infrastructure and operations become a critical part of the delivery of software products or products through Agile. And then you have to avoid just making it a framework implementation, because that's just renaming titles and renaming ways of work, and not really changing the mindset of the organization towards that agility that you're seeking. So in terms of the Agile trends, I'll close with the predictions from Agile for 2020, which say that really through 2023, 75% of organizations will customize Agile practice to match product and team concepts. So really what this is saying is that you have to take, again, your organizational context into account, take that framework, and then make it work for you. Now, in order to avoid those anti-patterns, you have to maintain the spirit of Agile frameworks in terms of the practices, the ceremonies, the tools that are available, the coaching that needs to be. So we're not saying here that, well, create your own. It's contextualize the adoption to your organization in order to drive success. Don't just, implement a framework for the sake of implementing a framework to say that you are Agile. It's a mindset and cultural change. You have to match the Agile practice to the product team and concepts. The concept of continuous learning and adaptation are really core here. And you need to really develop that approach that, better meets your team effectiveness. So again, it's all about, taking the essence and applying it to your organization to drive that business agility. So we have this leads us to the frameworks that you can use. So in this particular survey that Gartner did last year, we can see that most organizations are leading towards the Scale Agile framework. There's many others, and we have encountered customers that are implementing, not only SAFe, but they might have multiple frameworks within their organization, which is perfectly fine. As an Agile PMO, you need to actually have the ability to integrate, like the example that we gave earlier, integrate them with the other ways of working in the organization. Now, we think there's a specific reason why we think Scale Agile is a preference within organizations, and I'll point them out in a second. But if your organization is using Spotify or doing something else, your own approach, it's perfectly fine, as long as you're using it to drive that business agility and delivering more value to your customers. In terms of SAFe, this is why we believe that it's the preferred method for large corporates, and it's because you're actually allowing the bottom up to meet top down through a portfolio approach. And lean portfolio management specifically, is a tool for senior leadership teams and CXOs to participate as part of that enterprise agile transformation. I mean, here it's different than the traditional approach to project portfolio management, and they have to learn how to think differently in terms of managing products and approving epics and having large lean budgets assigned to portfolios and value streams. I mean, that's all part of the transition, but the other frameworks don't necessarily make it as easy for executives to actually participate. And in the latest version of SAFe, which is SAFe 5.0, which just came out, there's an additional layer of organizational agility that addresses even more factors. So it gives you guidance for the overall organizational change that needs to occur. So we happen to have a preference for lean portfolio management, but like I said, our solutions can actually accommodate any enterprise agile framework. In addition, by the way, as I was saying earlier, in terms of lean portfolio management, and I think this goes really for any agile transformation, you begin by training executives, managers, and leaders to make sure that they understand everything that it's going to take to actually go through the journey of an agile transformation in whatever form it is, by the way, whether you're going to be adaptive or you're going to be going all the way to LPM. And in this case, I'm highlighting that you have the top down and bottom up that need to meet, because at the end of the day, it's really the product teams, the software teams, the DevOps teams that are actually going to make this happen in terms of digital initiatives within the organization. So Scale Agile framework is much more than just lean portfolio management. We're just addressing it here as a starting point for organization. Okay, so let's talk now, switch gears, talk a little bit about our OnePlan for Agile PMOs. And we have actually we're going to show the two different approaches. OnePlan for Agile PMOs with adaptive PPM, and also showing lean portfolio management, which is the Scale Agile Framework portfolio approach. So for those of you that haven't seen our OnePlan solution previously, it's built for organizations that want to go towards Enterprise Agile, again, in an adaptive manner or in lean. It's modern in terms of its user experience, integrated in terms of the ability to incorporate work from any work team tool that your organization might be using, highly collaborative in terms of integrating all different types of users, and also best of breed in terms of the technology framework and the cloud solution that we've built. So if you're going the direction of Enterprise Agile, this is a good choice to look at. It really, OnePlan has, the 4 main components that we address in addition to reporting. So we focus a lot on portfolio management, as you will see. We have the ability to plan work directly within the tool and integrate, obviously, all the work that's being done by different teams. Strong financial management capabilities for defining budgets and tracking actuals at any level of a plan hierarchy. Resource management, which is even in the Agile world, important in terms of being able to dedicate teams and then see where capacity is available for new epics. And then finally, reporting throughout the delivery cycle of programs and products. We have here the lean portfolio management framework, which you'll see that's within the tool. And I want to highlight that we have the ability to really bring work from any team Agile tool or project management tool for that matter, if you're working in adaptive. So the solution actually has a middleware component called OneConnect, which allows you to, like I said, integrate any really work stream that's coming from an external system. I will now provide a solution overview, so bear with me while we change screens. So you should be looking now at my OnePlan screen, and I'm actually directly within OnePlan. I could be using OnePlan within other work management tools, as we call Fuse, but here I'm going to start with OnePlan in its native experience. And I am Daniel Williams. As you can see here, I am showing a portfolio structure, and this is OnePlan for lean portfolio management. And the easiest way to see that is that I actually have the lean portfolio management hierarchy reflected within my plan types. If we were in an adaptive mode, which I'll show in a second, you'll see that it's more of a flatter approach where our epics and projects might be showing in without the other components that you see here for lean portfolio management, which is portfolio, value stream, epics, features, and strategic themes. If I open these, you can see that also the entire structure is showing. And in terms of OnePlan, on the very right, I'll point to you that we have the ability to see different views within this list. I can change to boards, which is another experience. I also have roadmaps, and a set of dashboards. And I will cover these through our walkthrough. On the very left, just so that you have an idea of the solution, you can track work individually if you've been assigned work. So that's what my work shows. If you're interested in a timesheet, this is still a requirement in many organizations that are doing Agile, and it's perfectly fine. We have the ability to have a timesheet against tasks. We'll be managing portfolios, and what you see here, my portfolios. We have resource plans aggregated for individuals and projects, a scheduler capability, and status reports, which is brand new, and then we can go individually to plans instead of actually seeing through the portfolio. So what is most interesting in the context of lean portfolio management is that we can reflect the lean portfolio Kanban for epics in this case. So we can see that I have a project that is actually implementing any of the metadata that is standard as part of the framework is showing here. The valid stream that it belongs to, if it's actually part of a program. If you wanted to add additional metadata for adding applications, the applications that it belongs to, the program increment, and so on, you can see that we can track it. Within lean portfolio management, one of the big differences is the focus on a lean business case and the ability to develop that lean business case. So we have here the ability to actually complete our lean business case. We can add workflow to this in order to have approvals. But in terms of being able to capture that lean business case through our reviewing and analyzing stage and getting it to the approval, the go no go as part of our backlog, that would occur by using this lean business case. And again, depending on how you are implementing lean portfolio management, this can change. Most important, we have the ability to do our WSJF and SWAGs in order to do our prioritization, which is really what drives lean portfolio management prioritization. As part of development of the epic, again, through its life cycle, you can see here that we have the ability to define a budget, and also it really has no limits in terms of the types that we have. So budget, forecast, actual, whatever your structure is within the organization for tracking financials, we can actually do that. You can see that we have some comparisons here that can be made in terms of looking at budget versus forecast, and this is a grid in terms of having the ability to just come in and enter enter data as needed. In terms of being able also to see different time ranges, you can do that. And I'll note that it does have the ability to also show different cost categories depending on what you want to manage. From a resource standpoint, every epic or project, if you're doing adaptive, can also have a resource plan, which can show how I'm going to be using a particular team during the epic. And this is helpful when you're doing upfront planning of the epic as you're moving it through your lean portfolio Kanban. And you can have also negotiation in terms of being having a team proposed and then approved by the team owner when this epic is going through and getting approved. And if we needed to add additional bookings, we can directly within the tool. So it's and also seeing if there's any individual resources that need to be added to the proposed epic, you can go through that. As the epic moves forward, the product owner, epic owner, can actually come through and then see actuals versus the capacity that's been planned when the epic was approved. In terms of work plan, we have the ability to actually plan in several modes. Now, in this case, when the epic becomes approved, it's likely that it's going to be integrated with a team planning tool, whether it's Azure DevOps or Jira or version 1, any of the team planning tools that are available. If you wanted to actually plan this project with Microsoft Project as well, you can do that because there are at times part of an epic that could be having components that are waterfall. This is again the adaptive mode that we talked about. So you could be connecting this epic to Microsoft Project and then loading it here directly. And then also, if you wanted to, bring the work directly, we can actually also have a board. And here I can change from looking at tasks to also looking at the backlog. And this is actually coming directly from, in this case, Azure DevOps, and I'll show that in a second. So you can have, again, if you're combining work modes, OnePlan allows you to actually do that directly within our work plan. We've added a capability to develop status reports that can be submitted and then also printed. So, just a quick way of an Epic owner as it's moving through the cycle to actually report status. And that is in addition to, by the way, dashboards that we have added. We leverage Power BI in order to drive our reporting. So and here I have our Epic one pager that basically draws the information from OnePlan and then can provide your dashboard. So here we've been dealing just with one Epic, but the idea is that we can go back to our portfolio and then see everything that's taking place in terms of doing our prioritization. You can see here that we have our WIS shift, but if I wanted to just focus on anything in particular, you can see that we have a number of different views in terms of PIs or capabilities or even strategic themes, if you wanted to. From a lean portfolio management standpoint, the boards are actually where the action takes place. So the first one is a program Kanban. So the program manager is going to want to see at a program level where the specific features are. So now we've gone to a lower level, so we can actually bring in, again, features from our work planning tool. We have our backlog here, and then it's as simple as moving our cards through our Kanban as we have actually completed them. Or in implementation here, we see the latest stages: implementing, validating, and then deploying to production. So even at a program level with features, we can bring those in to see how you're managing them. If we go to a higher level, we can go to, in fact, let me go to, at a higher level, we can look at epics through our lean portfolio Kanban. So here now we have, this is again, collection of features become epics. And here we see the epics as they're moving through your portfolio management approach, where our status is colored. So we see that, there are some epics that are not doing so well. We can actually, look at metadata directly here and see what's going on. And if we needed to drill down deeper or do some collaboration, we can, or look directly at the work plan to see what's going on. Within lean portfolio Kanban, this is really where from a portfolio management approach, the magic happens, because once you have your WSJF, once you have your lean business case completed, this is where, if you're within your WIP limit, which is another major difference in traditional project portfolio management, you can take your epic and move it to your portfolio backlog. This now becomes part of what a program team is going to be managing throughout implementation. So at this point, it would actually become then part of the backlog for that, going down to that other Kanban that I showed earlier. And then finally, at a program increment level, these are features. So this is the other management tool within LPM and SAFE, which is, we are delivering epics or features within program increments when all of the features that make up an epic are completed within our increments within a year, which is the standard, but it varies depending on organization. Then we have actually completed our epic. So in this case, again, we're looking at what are we going to be delivering in our program increments, and in this case, it's quarterly. So every one of these increments are represent 3 months. But again, this is coming from our team planning tools, where we are aggregating information and summarizing it within OnePlan. If we go to our dashboard, we can see that we have a Power BI content pack directly integrated, and it's a Power BI content pack that is for Agile. So, and again, this is all representative. So within your organization, this can be changed to reflect what you're most interested in seeing. But you can see below here that we have our lean metrics, our strategy roadmap. It goes through and basically allows you to slice and dice all the data that we have within our OnePlan solution. So let's go through some of these. So here we have our lean metrics and important roll-ups of all of our epics by strategic theme, and also our prioritization based on, in this case, bubble chart based on WSJF and our budgets. And so, all the summaries can be also filtered to, focus on any particular driver or business unit. If we go to our roadmap, we can open this up and then see where we're going with every one of our in Fabricam. We're looking at Fabricam, the Fabricam program, so you can see here all the different phases within Fabricam. In terms of budgets, same concept in terms of being able to view all of the data for our particular epics or epics and projects. And here we have it, by quarter. We can move on to resource plans. Same concept in terms of being able to see by team, by role, what the load is for all of the epics that we're planning. And I believe that we have backlog reports in terms of what's pending, what we have accomplished, issues that are pending also, and risk and changes if you're actually tracking those directly. So I want to go back to portfolio real quick, because in addition to everything that I've shown, one of the primary capabilities is having the ability to also do what if scenarios. And really what that means is, if I open all of this up, we can see all of the work that's being done within all of our portfolios and value streams. And I can then do financial what ifs or resource what ifs, depending on what targets I have and what I need to change. So this view within portfolio is basically aggregating all of the planned financials that I have developed, and from here I can actually then use a scenario to compare and see where where I am against that scenario. The idea would be to have the ability to then, depending on where our epic is, we can say, well, if we perhaps need to not do that that specific epic or feature, and then we can see what the impact is if we've actually budgeted against it. Probably better to do it the entire epic. And you can see the changes against what we have as a target. And we can also, compare, budget forecasts or actuals in that mode. So that's one capability. The second is being able to do resource planning. This is probably the more important one in terms of, dedicating teams to Agile. We can do the same concept, same what if capability in terms of being able to just deselect, epics that might be proposed and we might not have enough, resources. The other would be to actually find where there's capacity, and then through our resource plans, go in and make changes to the individual teams or the project. So, or the epics. So that's another way of actually doing the same thing. So I'll go ahead and click that off. Let's see. One last thing I wanted to show is our roadmaps. So, roadmaps are really important. So let's go ahead and show it by product. So if you're doing a product approach, you can then look at exactly what you're delivering, and you can see that we have dependencies also here on a quarterly basis. What are we delivering for our different products? If you wanted to use the program approach and that we referred to within SAFe, you can do that also, and you can see it within Fabricam. These are epics that we are going to be delivering within our PIs. So that is lean portfolio management, and this same structure, I showed it to you within OnePlan, can also be viewed in this case within Azure DevOps. So this is part of what we call our fused UI, and you can see that right here is OnePlan. Now, this is actually available right now in AppSource if you wanted to try it out. So if you look for OnePlan within AppSource, you can have a trial and have it integrated within your Azure DevOps. If you have Jira or another solution, you may contact with us. We don't have that directly within AppSource, but you can actually also have a OnePlan trial within AppSource, and then we can connect to your Jira if you're interested in a trial. But here you can see that same hierarchy that I was showing for the LPM team: cloud and mobile first, Fabricam as our value stream, all of the epics, support customer mobile. So the teams are going to be working within Azure DevOps. All the data is going to be updating through our OneConnect in OnePlan. And really, the benefit to the Epic owner is that they can work. You can see here that we have a tab for OnePlan. They can go directly within Azure DevOps, access OnePlan, and then manage the framework, the Kanban process, the lean business case. If they wanted to actually look at financials and resources, they can do that directly here, so they don't have to go outside to outside of Azure DevOps to the OnePlan native experience. You can see here that I'm showing both financial planner, a resource planner, and even the work plan. If you wanted to surface any work that might be even done outside of Azure DevOps, as I said, we can integrate Microsoft Project directly. So here you have the ability to work in that hybrid mode. So again, of value in terms of being able to look at you can go back and also look at the portfolio directly within Azure DevOps. So again, another example of our fused experience where the same Azure, the same OnePlan portfolio that we were working with is actually being shown here. So anybody that's using Azure DevOps, it could bring significant value by having this portfolio capability. And now what I want to do now is turn the table and talk about adaptive. So this is a different demonstration site or different group site where if you look at our structure is fairly flat. So what that means is that we have enterprise projects and portfolio epics at the same level. We also have small projects here. So you can manage both within the same solution and work in that adaptive mode that I've been referencing throughout. In other words, this would be where half or majority of your projects might be still waterfall, and you are moving in the direction of an agile transformation. You note here that we have Azure DevOps, so that means that we can integrate just like we've integrated in the prior scenario. Here you would be working within OnePlan. You can integrate that work, but we also have Jira here. So this is an example of working within different modes and being able to integrate all those team working tools. We have Microsoft Project, so the project online desktop client that can actually load the project schedule directly here, and even the new project for the web, which is showing here in some of the actual projects, not epics, that have been created using the new capability that came out from Microsoft, new project or projects for the web. So again, this is an example of adaptive PPM where you can work in all modes. And in terms of the groupings are more flexible because here we're combining both different types of projects, which means that if you wanted to look at projects by business unit, you can do that directly. If we wanted to look at projects by, let's go and portfolio, we can do that. So, or program. So again, we have in an adaptive mode the ability to view all of that information differently, because again, we decided we're not using a lean portfolio management approach. So with that, I'm going to now close out our presentation and provide some takeaways. 1 second here while I switch my screen. Okay, so what are our takeaways for today? Well, our Agile PMOs need to move toward an enterprise Agile approach, whether it's adaptive or LPM. You really need to be in a position where you're going to drive business agility by moving faster and having new ways of work as you evolve towards that strategic project office that we mentioned in the beginning. In order to do that, everything starts with assessing level of readiness. So whether we have the methods for doing that, but really you have to understand where you're at within that spectrum of enterprise agile that I showed earlier. How far do you need to go in order to drive that agility? Define what is going to be the best approach for you, for your organization, and really what you're trying to do is shift the organization more towards managing products, managing value streams, driving more digital initiatives that deliver that customer centricity. We recommend that you begin with a transition towards adaptive at the very least, where you can actually incorporate within the same views and ways of work what is Agile portfolio management. Or if you want to go shift left all the way, then go towards a lean portfolio management in its true sense, which means that, again, it begins with all the elements of a major change initiative within organization: sponsorship, funding, change management, people, training, coaching, everything that takes to actually make that happen. And in the end, what the end goal is, again, that business agility, so that you can transform towards that product orientation and customer value. So we have those folks that are interested in doing this. We've actually, taken the Safe Business Agility Assessment and made it into a series of questionnaires. So if you're interested in going through it and getting some results, more than happy to support you in doing that. There's some interesting, observations that come out of it in terms of your readiness to, do a full agile transformation, and perhaps it's more adaptive. Your approach, again, depends on the organization and what the leadership wants to do. In terms of our ability to do this, if you haven't worked with us before, we are an end-to-end productivity partner for transformation. Our organization is divided into advisory, solutions, and operations. So we can actually be an end-to-end transformation partner for your organization, both from a consulting standpoint and, again, defining that change management, to the OnePlan solution that we just showed, to completing your support through our managed delivery, our training, and our staffing. In terms of PPM specifically, we are the Microsoft Partner of the Year, Global Partner of the Year for PPM. The majority of our staff has more than 10 years in the PPM space. Yours truly more than 20, together with a leadership team within Wickersoft. And we cover pretty much all the bases to make your goals for adaptive PPM a reality. So please count on us and make contact so that we can support you. As I said earlier, we're very proud of our certifications and all of the successful work that we've done for customers in terms of portfolio management, both in traditional waterfall as well as agile. So please make contact. We have trials available, again, with an app source for OnePlan, whether you're doing adaptive or you're going all the way left with lean portfolio. More than happy to walk you through our the business agility assessment and how we've put it into questionnaires in order to provide you with guidance of what comes out. You get your nice spider chart, radar chart, health chart in terms of everything, how you're meeting every one of the criteria for business agility. And with that, I want to thank you and look forward to seeing you again in one of our other webinars and being able to help you through your Enterprise Agile transformation. Thank you very much.